Sophia Collins, born and raised in the quiet town of Greenwood, Ohio, was the middle child of Robert and Mary Collins. Robert owned the local hardware store, and Mary worked as a nurse at the nearby hospital. Sophia, with an older brother named Michael and a younger sister named Olivia, was the apple of her parents' eyes. From a young age, she exhibited a zest for life, excelling in her studies and participating in various extracurricular activities. Her passion for teaching emerged during her high school years, inspired by a history teacher who brought the past to life in vivid detail. Sophia pursued her dream by attending Ohio State University, where she earned her degree in education. After college, Sophia returned to Greenwood and secured a teaching position at the local elementary school. Her dedication to her students was unparalleled, often staying late to help with after-school programs and tutoring struggling students on weekends. Her colleagues admired her enthusiasm, and parents frequently requested her for their children's classes. Outside of her professional life, Sophia had a wide range of interests. She loved hiking, photography, and reading historical novels, often spending weekends exploring nature trails or curled up with a good book. Friends described her as warm, compassionate, and always ready to lend a helping hand. Sophia met Ethan Carter at a friend's wedding. Ethan, a financial consultant from New York City, was charming with a quick wit and an easy smile. The attraction was immediate, and their whirlwind romance took everyone by surprise. Ethan lavished Sophia with attention, expensive gifts, and exotic trips. Their courtship was brief but intense, and within a year, Ethan proposed. Sophia, swept off her feet by his charisma and the promise of a glamorous life, said yes. Her family and friends had mixed feelings about the rapid engagement. While they wanted to support Sophia's happiness, they couldn't shake a sense of unease about Ethan. He was always impeccably dressed, driving luxury cars and staying in upscale hotels, but his extravagant lifestyle seemed at odds with his modest background. Despite these concerns, Sophia was enamored and reassured everyone that Ethan was her soulmate. Their wedding was a grand affair held in a picturesque vineyard and attended by over 200 guests. Friends from Greenwood and Ethan's associates from New York mingled under fairy lights and sipped champagne, celebrating the union. As the newlyweds departed for their honeymoon in Barbados, no one could have predicted the dark turn their love story would take. Ethan Carter was born and raised in Queens, New York. His parents, John and Patricia Carter, struggled to make ends meet. John worked as a mechanic, while Patricia held various part-time jobs to support their 3 children. Ethan, the eldest, grew up with a strong drive to escape the financial hardships of his upbringing. From a young age, he exhibited a knack for numbers and a shrewd understanding of money. Excelling in school, he earned a scholarship to New York University, where he studied finance. Ethan's ambition was evident, spending his college years networking and securing internships at prestigious firms. His relentless work ethic paid off, and upon graduation, he landed a coveted position at a top financial consultancy. Ethan quickly rose through the ranks, his talent for investment strategies and financial planning earning him a reputation as a rising star. His success afforded him a lifestyle he had always dreamed of: designer suits, high-end cars, and a luxury apartment in Manhattan. However, his professional success masked deeper issues. Colleagues often described Ethan as charming but ruthless, willing to bend the rules to achieve his goals. His personal life was equally complex. His charm attracted many women, but his relationships were often short-lived, ending abruptly amid rumors of infidelity and deceit. Despite this, he maintained a polished public image, carefully curating his social media to portray a life of sophistication and success. When Ethan met Sophia Collins, she represented something different. Her genuine warmth and small-town innocence were a stark contrast to the superficial relationships he was accustomed to. To his friends, it seemed like Ethan was truly in love for the first time. But as their relationship progressed, cracks began to appear. Ethan's financial empire was not as solid as it seemed. Behind the scenes, he was entangled in risky investments and mounting debts. His financial troubles were compounded by his extravagant spending habits. He kept these issues hidden from Sophia, presenting only the image of a successful and devoted partner. His decision to propose was as much about securing a future with Sophia as it was about seeking stability amid his growing financial chaos. Their wedding, though a joyous occasion, also marked the point where Ethan's deceptions began to catch up with him. Barbados, with its lush landscapes and serene beaches, was the perfect backdrop for Ethan and Sophia's honeymoon. They stayed at an exclusive resort, their bungalow perched on the edge of a secluded cove. The first few days were filled with romantic dinners, sunset walks, and excursions to explore the island's natural beauty. Sophia documented their adventures on social media, her posts filled with joy and excitement. On the night of Sophia's disappearance, the couple dined at the resort's beachfront restaurant. The atmosphere was idyllic. Soft music played in the background, and tiki torches flickered in the gentle breeze. Fellow diners noticed the couple laughing and holding hands, seemingly in love. The staff, accustomed to honeymooners, paid them little special attention. After dinner, Ethan suggested a moonlit walk along the beach. Sophia, always one for romance, readily agreed. They strolled along the water's edge, the sound of the waves mingling with their conversation. Ethan later recounted that Sophia had expressed a desire to take a swim. She slipped off her sandals and waded into the water, the moonlight casting a silver glow on her figure. According to Ethan, he returned to their bungalow to fetch a jacket for Sophia. When he came back, she was gone. Panic set in as he searched the beach, calling her name. He alerted the resort staff, who joined the search, but Sophia was nowhere to be found. Ethan's distress seemed genuine as he spoke with the resort's manager, his voice cracking and hands trembling. The following morning, the local police were notified. They began an immediate investigation, questioning resort staff and guests. Divers searched the waters near the beach, and sniffer dogs were brought in to track any scent that might lead to Sophia. Despite their efforts, no clues emerged. The beach was combed for any personal items, but nothing was found. As the hours turned into days, Ethan's behavior began to attract scrutiny. He appeared genuinely distraught, but there were moments when his composure seemed forced. The police noted his meticulous recounting of events, almost as if rehearsed. Resort staff mentioned his insistence on calling his lawyer soon after Sophia's disappearance, which struck them as odd. Witnesses provided conflicting accounts. Some recalled seeing the couple arguing earlier in the day, while others described them as affectionate. A few guests reported hearing raised voices from their bungalow the night before Sophia vanished. The police were left with a puzzling mix of evidence and testimonies that painted an inconsistent picture of the couple's final hours together. As the investigation stalled, Ethan's narrative was the only story available. His plea for information was broadcast on news networks, his tearful face becoming the public image of a grieving husband. Yet behind the scenes, Detective Mason was piecing together a different story, one that hinted at a more sinister truth. Detective Mason arrived at the resort, greeted by the tropical heat and the sight of tourists enjoying their vacations, seemingly unaware of the drama unfolding. His first step was to interview Ethan Carter. Sitting across from him in the resort's lounge, Mason observed Ethan's demeanor carefully. The man seemed genuinely distraught, but there was an underlying tension that the seasoned detective couldn't ignore. Ethan recounted the events of the night Sophia disappeared, his voice steady but his eyes betraying a flicker of anxiety. Mason listened intently, asking pointed questions about their activities, their relationship, and any possible reason Sophia might have had to leave suddenly. Ethan's answers were consistent, but Mason felt they were too polished, as if rehearsed. The detective then spoke with the resort staff and other guests. The accounts varied, some aligning with Ethan's story while others contradicted it. A waitress at the restaurant mentioned that Ethan seemed agitated during dinner, frequently checking his phone. A couple staying in a neighboring bungalow reported hearing an argument late at night, although they couldn't make out the words. Mason's team searched the couple's bungalow and the surrounding area. They found Sophia's belongings neatly packed, her passport and wallet untouched. Her phone was missing, presumably with her. A thorough examination of the beach yielded no new clues. The tide and weather had likely washed away any trace evidence. As the days passed, the investigation broadened. Mason looked into Ethan's background, finding a man who was both successful and secretive. His financial records revealed a troubling pattern. Despite his high-paying job, Ethan was deep in debt. Large withdrawals from his accounts suggested a gambling problem, and several investments had failed spectacularly. Mason interviewed Ethan's colleagues and friends in New York, uncovering a different side of him. They described Ethan as charming but unreliable, with a penchant for risky ventures and a history of romantic entanglements. One colleague, who requested anonymity, mentioned that Ethan had recently been involved in a scandal at work, hinting at financial misconduct. The detectives' team also analyzed phone records and bank statements, uncovering a web of transactions that pointed to financial distress. Several large transfers had been made to offshore accounts, and Ethan had taken out substantial loans shortly before the wedding. These findings suggested that Ethan was far from the affluent figure he portrayed. As suspicion around Ethan grew, the investigation took a dramatic turn with the discovery of a letter in Sophia's handwriting found hidden in her suitcase. It was addressed to her parents and hinted at her growing unease about Ethan. She wrote about discovering discrepancies in his stories and financial dealings, expressing fear that she had made a terrible mistake in marrying him. The evidence was mounting, and Detective Mason felt the pieces of the puzzle starting to come together. But without Sophia, the case remained frustratingly incomplete. The detective was determined to uncover the truth, knowing that the facade of the perfect honeymoon was hiding something far more sinister. The financial investigation into Ethan Carter's affairs revealed a cascade of deceit. Detective Mason and his team uncovered a complex network of bank accounts, hidden assets, and dubious transactions. Ethan's financial empire, once thought to be thriving, was crumbling under the weight of risky investments and substantial debt. As Mason delved deeper, he discovered that Ethan had been involved in several questionable business ventures. One such venture was a failed real estate development in Florida, which had resulted in significant losses for investors. Another was a tech startup that went bankrupt, leaving Ethan with substantial debts. These ventures, combined with his gambling habits, had drained his resources and left him in a precarious financial position. Ethan's secret debts and business failures provided a possible motive for foul play. With Sophia's disappearance, questions arose about potential life insurance policies or other financial benefits he might gain. Mason's team found that Ethan had recently taken out a substantial life insurance policy on Sophia, raising further suspicions. Testimonies from friends and colleagues about Ethan's character began to form a consistent narrative. They described him as someone who would do anything to maintain his lifestyle, even if it meant resorting to deception. Sophia's image of success was maintained even if it meant deceiving those closest to her. It seemed Ethan had been ensnared in a web of lies and financial manipulation. Mounting evidence suggested Sophia's involvement in Ethan's disappearance was more than circumstantial. Her financial desperation, coupled with the inconsistencies in her story, hinted at a more sinister motive. As the investigation progressed, Detective Mason realized the key to solving the case lay in uncovering the full extent of Sophia's deceit and the secrets she had worked so hard to conceal. As the investigation deepened, another layer of Sophia Collins's double life emerged: her extramarital affairs. Detectives uncovered a series of clandestine relationships that painted a picture of a woman far different from the devoted spouse she appeared to be. Sophia's phone records and emails revealed communications with several men, some of whom she met through her professional engagements, while others were casual encounters. These relationships ranged from fleeting flings to more serious entanglements. Detective Mason and his team meticulously tracked down and interviewed these men, each conversation revealing more about Sophia's deceptive nature. One man, Luke Mitchell, a marketing executive from Chicago, provided crucial insight. He described his relationship with Sophia as passionate but tumultuous. They had met at a conference a year before her wedding, and their affair continued well into her engagement with Ethan. Luke was unaware of Sophia's upcoming marriage until he saw the wedding announcement on social media. Feeling betrayed, he ended their relationship but kept records of their communications, which he willingly shared with the investigators. Another man, Mark Evans, a real estate agent from Miami, had a similar story. He and Sophia had met during one of her business trips, and their affair was marked by lavish gifts and extravagant promises. Mark, too, was unaware of Sophia's marital status. He described her as attentive and affectionate, but noted her tendency to vanish for days without explanation. The most damning testimony came from Rachel Turner, a colleague from her firm who had been involved with Sophia for nearly 2 years. Rachel's account revealed a pattern of manipulation and deceit. She recounted how Sophia had confided in her about her financial troubles, painting herself as a victim of unfortunate circumstances. Rachel, deeply infatuated with her, had even loaned her money on several occasions, believing her promises to repay once her investments paid off. These revelations had a profound impact on the case. They not only established a pattern of deceit, but also suggested potential motives for Ethan's disappearance. Sophia's affairs indicated a woman capable of maintaining multiple lives, each carefully compartmentalized to prevent discovery. Her ability to juggle these relationships while hiding her financial troubles from Ethan spoke to her skill at deception. Interviews with her past lovers painted a picture of a woman driven by a need for validation and material success. They described how Sophia would often speak of her ambitions and dreams, using her charm to elicit sympathy and support. Her relationships, both romantic and financial, were tools she used to navigate her increasingly precarious life. The impact of these revelations on the case was significant. They provided a motive for foul play, suggesting that Sophia might have seen Ethan as both an obstacle and a solution to her problems. With her financial empire collapsing and her web of lies unraveling, the pressure on Sophia had reached a breaking point. Ethan's disappearance and the subsequent focus on Sophia threatened to expose her entire charade. As Detective Mason pieced together the evidence, it became clear that the investigation was far from straightforward. Each new discovery added complexity to the case, revealing the depths of Sophia's deceit and the lengths she was willing to go to maintain her facade. The true challenge lay in proving her involvement beyond doubt, a task that required uncovering every hidden aspect of her life. Just when Detective Mason believed he had a clear picture of Sophia Collins's involvement in Ethan's disappearance, a shocking twist emerged. A mysterious figure, previously unknown to the investigation, came forward with information that turned the case on its head. The figure was a woman named Alex Carter, a private investigator from New York. Alex contacted Detective Mason, claiming to have crucial information about Sophia Collins and her activities. Intrigued and cautious, Mason arranged a meeting in a dimly lit cafe. Alex revealed her connection to the case. She explained that she had been hired by an anonymous client to investigate Sophia Collins months before Ethan's disappearance. Her client had suspected Sophia of financial misconduct and infidelity, and Alex's investigation had uncovered significant evidence of both. She had been tracking Sophia's movements and communications, documenting her secret affairs and shady business dealings. But Alex's most startling revelation was about Ethan. According to her findings, Ethan had discovered Sophia's infidelity and financial troubles shortly before their wedding. He had confided in a close friend, expressing his doubts and fears about marrying Sophia. This friend, concerned for Ethan's safety, had anonymously hired Alex to gather evidence, hoping to give Ethan a way out of his situation. Alex provided Detective Mason with a dossier of her findings, including photographs, financial records, and transcripts of conversations. One particularly damning piece of evidence was a recording of a conversation between Sophia and an unknown associate discussing plans that hinted at foul play. The recording suggested that Sophia had been plotting something sinister, although the details were vague. This new information complicated the case significantly. It introduced the possibility that Ethan might have been aware of Sophia's plans and had taken steps to protect himself. Detective Mason considered the idea that Ethan could have staged his disappearance to escape Sophia's clutches, although the lack of concrete evidence made this theory difficult to prove. Mason decided to re-interview everyone involved. Armed with the new information, he spoke again with Ethan's family and friends, uncovering more details about his state of mind before the wedding. Ethan's best friend, Lisa, revealed that Ethan had been increasingly anxious in the weeks leading up to the honeymoon. He had confided in Lisa about his fears and mentioned the anonymous tipster who had warned him about Sophia. Ethan's rescue brought a mix of relief and outrage. While many were glad he was safe, questions about his actions and the trauma he endured dominated the public discourse. Detective Mason interviewed Ethan extensively, piecing together his story. He described the mounting pressure he felt after discovering Sophia's infidelities and financial troubles. The anonymous tip from Alex Carter had been the final straw, prompting him to take drastic action. Sophia Collins was arrested and charged with multiple crimes, including fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit harm. The evidence provided by Alex Carter, combined with Ethan's testimony, built a strong case against her. During the trial, the full extent of Sophia's deceit was laid bare. Her financial empire had been a house of cards, supported by lies and illegal activities. The jury found her guilty on all counts, and she was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The aftermath of the case left lasting scars on everyone involved. Ethan returned to Greenwood, where he began the long process of healing with the support of his family and friends. He became an advocate for domestic abuse victims, sharing his story to help others in similar situations. The media's fascination with his life eventually faded, but Ethan remained a symbol of resilience and survival. Detective Mason reflected on the case as one of the most challenging of his career. It had been a journey through layers of deception and human frailty, revealing the dark complexities of love, trust, and betrayal. The resolution, while not entirely satisfying, brought a measure of justice and closure to those affected. In the end, the case of Ethan Carter's disappearance was a stark reminder that truth can be stranger than fiction, and that beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives, there can lie a twisted web of secrets waiting to be uncovered.